Now we also have the create tools. So for instance, right now, if I quickly duplicate this cube really quick, move it across. Now, if I want to UV wrap this, I have to go to say UV, cylindrical, planar, etc. But in the actual UV editor itself, or in the UV toolkit, we actually have the UV wrapping options right here from the get-go. So for instance, I can just click on this to do the automatic UV wrapping, or say select the four faces around here. Go to cylindrical, left mouse button to do cylindrical mapping, and I can also do planar mapping as well. So for instance, I can select this face here, and well, top one first, and say the bottom one. And depending on the mouse button that I use to select the planar, so left, right, or middle mouse button, it will actually project a UV shell based on the different axes. So for instance, the middle mouse button will project in the y-axis to create a UV shell in the y-axis. Now this is in the Z. So for instance, the right mouse button, when I click planar, creates a UV shell in the Z. And you would assume that the left mouse button would create one in the x-axis, but it actually doesn't. It actually creates one based on your planar mapping options. So I've already got mine preset to X. So once you press apply using the options here, the left mouse button will be assigned to your last axis projection, which is in my case X. And again, you can use like say camera based, best plane. You can play around with these if need be. Now we also have the cut and sew options. So basically, as you can see right now, we have 6 UV shells. However, we can combine them together to make them into say 1 or 2 or 3 UV shells. So if I just select these two edges here, you'll see that it also selects the corresponding edge as well. So for instance, this one here selects this one down here. The reason why is because these two can actually be sewn together to make one UV shell. Now we can use the options here, but a quicker and easier way to do it is by holding down Shift and the right mouse button, like you would in the perspective view, and go to Move and Sew Edges. And you'll see that it actually sews the edges together. Now it's very important that you make sure that the size of both edges are pretty much exactly the same, otherwise you'll get something like this, where it tries to fit together, but doesn't really work out, which again sort of distorts the UV shells. So in this case, I would have to try my very best to make sure that these two edges were almost exactly the same size or height, for instance, then sew them together. And you can tell when they're not really aligned properly, because you can see there's a little bit of distortion there, in which I'd have to kind of move across to kind of get it straight. But as you can see right now, this is all just one UV shell. However, if I wanted to separate them, it's pretty much the same way. So you'd select edge, for instance, hold down Shift, right mouse button, and rather than going to move and sew, you go to cut. And that basically separates them into different UV shells. And again, the reason why you would want to cut UV shells is because maybe the combined UV shell is too large, so splitting it in half or in like say quarters for instance makes it a little bit easier to kind of fit within the grid. Or you might want to sew stuff together because again it might be easier to kind of naturally flow the texture across the model. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it. I'm not telling you how to do it, but those options are available if need be.